The topic of this next segment is lactation. As we know, lactation is one of those universal characteristics of mammals. All infant mammals feed on their mother's milk before they eat any other kind of food. The evolution of lactation, though, is pretty much unknown, right? Because it results from the evolution of soft tissues that don't fossilize. So there's been a lot of speculation about when it evolved and what it evolved for. We know that it predates giving birth to live young because the monotremes that lay eggs also lactate, produce milk for their newly hatched offspring. And the egg may be the key to the evolution of lactation in the first place. Turns out that the type of egg that monotremes make is very much like the type of egg that reptiles make. It doesn't have a hard surface to it like a bird egg does. It's more soft and leathery, and it's possible for water to diffuse out of the egg. So it's vulnerable to drying out. But because water can leave the egg, water can also enter the egg. And so it's thought that the secretions that come from mammary glands may have first evolved as secretions that were aimed at introducing moisture back into the egg, that the secretions of the glands would have been laid on the surface of the egg and absorbed by the egg and would help to replace some of the water that might have evaporated out of the egg. And once you start introducing substances to the egg, then it's very possible that other substances could be secreted from skin glands, not just watery solutions, but solutions that could serve perhaps as a source of nutrition to the developing embryo inside the egg. So milk might have evolved to nourish the developing embryo in an egg, carrying all the kinds of chemical nutrients that a developing embryo might need during those early stages of evolution. And then once those embryos hatch, they could still feed off of those nutritious secretions. Modern day mammals have a system of feedback loops that control the production of milk and the preparation of the gland for producing milk. So we're going to look first at a cartoon diagram of what's going on during pregnancy. And we're going to focus on three basic structures: the pituitary gland in the brain, the mammary gland where milk eventually will be produced, and the ovary. And if we start at the ovary, during pregnancy, the ovary is pumping out a lot of hormones. It's pumping out both high quantities of estrogen and high quantities of progesterone. And those go to two different target tissues. One target tissue is the pituitary gland in the brain, and both of these hormones have a positive impact on the pituitary. It causes the pituitary to secrete more hormones, and namely growth hormone. The ovary that's producing estrogen and progesterone is also having a positive impact on the mammary gland. So the mammary gland is also has receptors for estrogen and progesterone, and those hormones have a positive effect on the mammary gland and cause the mammary gland to proliferate. So the cells within the mammary gland are dividing and becoming more numerous, and that's in preparation for making milk. But during pregnancy, no milk is being produced at all. It's just preparation of the mammary gland. So the hormones that are affecting the mammary gland are growth hormone, estrogen, and progesterone. And those three hormones together are causing the mammary gland to become larger and further develop in preparation for making milk. After the offspring are born, things change. So we still have the ovary and the pituitary gland and the mammary gland. But now after birth, the ovary is not pumping out high quantities of estrogen and progesterone anymore. The ovary has gone quiet, and that withdrawal of the estrogen and progesterone causes a shift in the things that are being produced by the pituitary gland. Growth hormone is still being produced, and it still has a positive impact on the mammary gland, but now the pituitary starts pumping out prolactin, releasing prolactin, another hormone. That hormone, prolactin, is not produced in any measurable quantities during pregnancy. It's only after birth when estrogen and progesterone are no longer in the picture. So that prolactin has a positive impact on the mammary gland, just like growth hormone, but it's the hormone that actually triggers the production of milk. So up until this time, no milk has been produced, just lots of cells that are ready to produce milk. So prolactin is the hormone responsible for triggering the production of milk. Now, milk will be produced when the offspring are born, within a day or 2 or 3 of when the offspring are born. But if the offspring don't remove that milk by suckling, by sucking on the gland and taking that milk out, then the milk will start to decrease in supply. The suckling of live offspring produces a positive feedback loop back to the pituitary, which causes the pituitary to secrete more prolactin and growth hormone. So this is positively reinforcing. If they're a live young born, they create stimulation that causes the pituitary to secrete prolactin and growth hormone. If the young are not born alive, then there's no suckling stimulus, no positive feedback back to the pituitary, and so the release of prolactin and growth hormone from the pituitary will decline. This is a really neat system because it's very sensitive to the number of offspring and to the life stage of those offspring. So if there are only a few offspring, there's only going to be a little bit of suckling, a little bit of positive feedback, and a little bit of prolactin and growth hormone, so a small quantity of milk produced. If there are a large number of offspring, then there's going to be more suckling, more positive stimulation, positive feedback, more prolactin, more growth hormone, more milk produced. As the offspring get older and they start eating more solid food, then again there's going to be less suckling, which is going to cause less milk to be produced, and over time that's going to kind of dribble out, and eventually the female will stop producing milk because the offspring will be fully weaned and won't be dependent on mother's milk anymore, but will be eating the adult diet. The same thing happens if the offspring are born alive but then die. The suckling stimulus vanishes, and that positive feedback to the pituitary is interrupted, and then the milk production will stop. This is just a quick overview of what's in the milk. Milk composition varies a lot from species to species, and it also varies across lactation depending on the needs of the developing offspring. But basically, it's a fully functional diet, so it's got fat and protein and carbohydrates in it. The specific carbohydrate that is most frequently found in milk is called lactose. And the milk that's produced very early on, right after birth, before the full milk production is underway, the substance that's secreted from the mammary gland is called colostrum, and that's a watery secretion that consists mostly of proteins of antibodies that are produced by the mother. This is notable because the immune system of a mammal changes with experience. So an adult's immune system is able to react to a large number of substances that could potentially cause harm because that adult animal has had experience encountering a lot of those substances, and so its immune system can recognize those substances and deal with them pretty quickly and efficiently. But a newborn mammal doesn't have that experience. Its immune system is not totally geared up to fight off any kind of infection or contaminant that it might encounter in its environment. So the mother's immune system, basically the products of the mother's immune system, are transferred to the offspring through colostrum. So that gives the newborn mammal a lot of protection against things in the environment that could potentially harm it. So the last thing that I'd like to touch on is the evolution of lactose tolerance. And you all may be familiar with lactose intolerance. It's actually very, very common among humans and even more common among non-human mammals. If you look across mammals, it turns out that the enzyme that breaks down the sugar lactose is only functional during early development, during the time when a young mammal would be naturally drinking milk. It's producing the enzyme lactase that breaks down the carbohydrate lactose. And when the offspring switches to a non-milk diet, when it's eating the adult food, that enzyme stops being produced. So adult mammals have lost the ability to break down lactose by and large. Turns out that certain populations of humans evolved a genetic mutation that kept that gene for lactase operational throughout the lifespan. So now in certain populations of people, they can drink milk throughout their lifespan without having any digestive problems because they're making the enzyme lactase that breaks down lactose. Some really nice genetic work has been done that show that, first of all, the timing of the evolution of this mutation coincides with the domestication of cattle. So our ability to drink milk has co-evolved with our domestication of cattle and our use of the milk from the cattle as part of our diets. And there are several different unique mutations that all result in the same end result of having the lactase enzyme functional throughout our lifespan. There were a couple of pockets of mutation events in Africa and one in Europe, and they all coincide with different events where cattle were domesticated in different parts of the world, all about the same time. It's a really neat story. This link here takes you to an article that explains the findings of the study and the prevalence of lactose tolerance throughout human populations.